I was 28 when I returned to the city of Anne. I had left it at 18, determined to forget its narrow alleys, its dusty warmth, its watchful silences. I had left behind my grandfather, the house with the squeaky gate, and a garden that seemed too wild to matter, but a decade of city life had worn me thin. Promotions, breakups, ambitions that turned into routines. In the end, I needed not a vacation, but an unraveling. And was where that unraveling began. The city hadn't changed much. Old men still played chess in the square, the baker still whistled as he kneaded dough, and the trees near the river still leaned like tired sentinels. My grandfather's house stood at the far end of a sloping street, white paint peeling like time itself was trying to escape it. When he opened the door, his eyes were full of both joy and something else, something that looked a lot like knowing. Grandfather smiling, "You've got your mother's eyes. And your father's restlessness." Me, "Is that a welcome?" "Grandfather, it's the best I've got." We embraced. His hug was brittle but warm. He smelled of turmeric, old paper, and dusted dreams. That night, I sat alone upstairs as the fan rotated with a tired groan. Outside, the sky was turning lavender, the shadows of the garden stretching like arms reaching toward some unseen past. I didn't know then that garden would become my sanctuary and my undoing. The third morning of my stay, I woke early. I wandered into the garden for the first time with fresh eyes. There was dew on the petals. Vines choked the stone statues, and everything seemed half forgotten, half sacred. And then I saw her. She was standing under the jacaranda tree, back turned, a soft pink dress brushing her ankles as the wind played through it. Her fingers traced the edge of a rose like it was something holy. I froze. She turned slowly, almost knowingly, and for the first time, our eyes met. "Rosie, you're not from here." Me softly, "Not anymore. Rosie, I've never seen you before, but the garden seems to like you." Her voice was quiet thunder, calm, but commanding. Me, "I'm staying with my grandfather." "The White House." "Rosie, the one who reads Fays aloud when he thinks no one's listening." She smiled. It wasn't flirtatious. It was something else, something tired but warm, distant but deliberate. "Rosie, I'm Rosie." "Me, I'm but." She was already walking away, a violet petal caught in her hair. The next morning, I returned to the garden earlier than usual. She wasn't there. But I waited, just long enough to feel foolish. By the fifth morning, I found her again, this time near the pond, tossing crumbs to the fish. Rosie, persistent. Me, curious. We spoke more that day, not about ourselves, but about flowers, weather, poetry. She quoted Rumi badly. I corrected her gently. She rolled her eyes and said I was pretentious. I told her she was impossible. She smiled again. That same quiet smile. Each day that followed became a ritual. We didn't call them dates. We didn't make promises, but we talked. We laughed. We sat under the jacaranda like it was our cathedral. I stopped checking the time. She handed me a tiny blue flower one morning. It was pressed between her palms like an offering. "Rosie, forget me not." Me, bit forward, "Don't you think?" "Rosie, it's not a request. It's a prophecy." She always had a way with words. Sharp, elusive, fragile, like poetry scribbled on crumbling walls. That night, I told my grandfather about her. "Grandfather, be careful with women who know gardens too well." Me laughing, "What does that mean?" "Grandfather, it means they've buried things." I laughed then. I shouldn't have. A week later, we walked beside the riverbank at sunset. Rosie was barefoot, trailing her toes in the water as if trying to erase her footprints. "Rosie, do you ever feel like you're just borrowing time?" Me, "Lately, I feel like I've been borrowing everything. Time, love, even peace." "Rosie, then maybe we're both thieves." We kissed. There was nothing innocent in it. It wasn't a first kiss, it was a last kiss happening early, desperate to matter before it expired. From that night, I didn't go a day without her. We met behind trees, between silences, within glances. Sometimes, she brought poetry written on receipts. Once, she wrote, "Even petals fall with grace." "Will you still love me when I don't?" I asked her what that meant. She changed the subject. One morning, I noticed a shift. She wasn't wearing her usual smile. Her words were fewer, her silences longer. Me, is something wrong? "Rosie, you ask a lot of questions for someone who claims to live in the moment." She kissed my cheek, then walked away. She didn't look back. My grandfather poured tea with steady hands, his gaze avoiding mine. "Grandfather, you've changed." Me, "Isn't that what growth looks like?" "Grandfather, No, this is something else. He paused. Grandfather, love shouldn't make you a stranger to yourself. Me. Quietly, she's not like anyone else. Grandfather, that's what every man says before he learns why. That night, Rosie stood with me beneath the jacaranda tree. The moonlight caught the tear in her eye before it fell. Rosie, if you knew everything, would you still love me? Me, I already do. She kissed me again, but this time, I could taste her sorrow, and for the first time since returning to N, I was afraid. Mornings lost their clarity. I woke each day awaiting her, my heart strung tight like a broken instrument. My grandfather's breakfast words floated past me, but I barely heard them. Every moment not with Rosie was a moment undone. Still, she came. Sometimes early, radiant in sunlight and laughter. Other times, late and distant, the kind of distant that speaks of conversations unsaid, walls steadily rising again. It was love, yes, but it was also obsession. I began to count the hours between sightings. Every message I sent I reviewed 10 times before pressing send. I loved the sound of her name almost more than I loved her, and each time she wasn't there, I felt a jagged emptiness. Thomas Wolfe once wrote that you can't go home again. I would have given anything to just go back to the quiet, back to peace. But Rosie's absence echoed louder in that silence. It started slowly. She missed a morning meeting. I waited by the stone bench, watching the jacaranda branches sway. Noon came, then dusk. I left a small note, just, you disappeared. I came looking. She never replied. 2 days later, I found her by the fountain near the old mosque at midday. Her cheeks were pale, her eyes heavier than sleep. She didn't smile, even when she saw me. Rosie quietly, I'm tired. Me, where did you go? She didn't answer. She never did. We sat in silence on the fountain's edge. I touched her hand. It trembled. I swallowed questions that screamed. The moment ended like a sigh, soft but final. A neighbor paused. Me one morning when I stepped into the garden. Neighbor, old woman, young man, you're spending too much time near that girl. Be careful. Me defensive. She's special. Neighbor, special can break you. My heart hammered. I left before she could say more. But that night, I lay awake, haunted by her words. When I confronted Rosie the next time we met me, she said you disappear. Is it true? Her lips curved, but not into a smile. Rosie, everyone disappears. Some just don't come back. I recoiled. Her answer cut closer than I expected, but still I stayed. Rosie missed another morning. This time I didn't wait, I followed. I trailed her through narrow lanes dotted with humidity until she slipped into a modest blue-painted house on Galebe Street. A man stood waiting. They kissed. It was tender and owned like a collision of history and comfort. Rosie's hesitation was brief, but enough. I didn't move. I watched. She crossed out of sight, and that image of her in someone else's arms ripped my heart in. 2 days later, I faced her. We met under the jacaranda. Violet petals drifted around us like wounded birds. Me voice shaking. Who is he? She inhaled sharply before sitting. Her bare feet touched the ground. She closed her eyes. Rosie, he's my husband. The word resonated through me, hollow and final. Me, you're married? She didn't answer at first. I saw her deliberating every second she stood there and weighed us. Rosie faintly, yes, legally. Me, why lie? Tears spilled as she turned to me. Rosie, because with you I felt alive. Not average. Not asleep at the wheel. I stared at her, torn. My love warred with betrayal. Me, you broke me. Rosie, I never meant to, but she did. And I didn't walk away. Silence stalked our days. All the magic we once shared felt stolen. Even the moments still charged with longing felt tainted. I avoided my grandfather. He looked at me with caution, like he could see how chaos had begun to claim me. Rosie came, but she was different. Softer, breakable. We spoke less, touched less. I thought that if my love was strong enough, it could hold us together. Instead, the tension spread between us like rot. My grandfather finally spoke one morning as I sat across from him. Grandfather, she's married, isn't she? I exhaled slowly. I didn't want to believe. He nodded. Grandfather, we fall for the image, the promise. But she's living a different story. Me, I thought love would save her. His gaze softened, but his words were firm. Grandfather, love is not a savior. It's a mirror. If she's broken, loving her won't fix her. I winced. I lied to myself. I lied to her. I told everyone, myself foremost, that I could handle it. That love was enough. That something would give. We spent stolen mornings, shared borrowed nights. I cupped her face, telling her how much she meant. She leaned into my hand, her skin warm, her sorrow close. We knew we were dancing on glass, but neither of us dared step away. The garden reflected our unraveling. Plants once lush with life now wilted. The sky above felt too heavy. Birds stayed silent. Even the jacaranda began dropping petals early. In sorrow, Rosie began missing more days. When she came, she was distant, absent-minded, haunted. We made love with the gravity of betrayal, and I thought that once I held her, I held everything, but all I held was a ghost. The day everything shattered was quiet and scorching. I was watering roses by the gate when a figure appeared. He waited for me to notice him. Tall, clean-cut, premise in his eyes. He spoke without greeting. "Husband, I'm looking for my wife." My throat closed. Me. She's here sometimes. Husband, I see her. Sometimes she's late. Sometimes gone for days. His eyes searched mine, calm but heavy. Husband, softly, does she say why? I shook my head. He nodded, turning away. I recognized him from the blue house. He saw me too. That evening, Rosie came trembling. Rosie, he knows. He came here. I stood in silence, Rosie voice breaking. I didn't plan any of this. You should have told me. Rosie, I was afraid you would leave. Her tears fell without sound. But I stayed. She bowed her head. Rosie, and I hurt you. Me sharp. Do you even love him? No answer. I realized I didn't even know what I believed. We spent one final night under the jacaranda. No kisses. No words. Only the tremor of two hearts wavering on the brink. Rosie whisper, "I'm sorry." The breeze stirred. Petals drifted like pale tears around us. Promise me one thing. She closed her eyes. That this meant something. Even if it didn't last. She pressed her forehead to mine. Rosie, it did. Dawn found me alone. Rosie was gone before sunrise. I checked the house, her apartment, the old mosque. Her husband left. With no trace, she'd been gone. The garden became an echo chamber. Silence swallowed every familiar scent, every half-heard word. I wandered through empty paths, barefoot and broken, touching petals that crumbled beneath my fingers. I waited. I hoped. I despaired. She never came back. Days passed. Then weeks. Rosie was gone. Not just absent, but vanished. No word. No note. Her scent still clung to the jacaranda tree, but her laughter had fled like it had only ever been imagined. I still walked the garden every morning, even though every petal, every stone, reminded me of her. The vines she used to touch had browned. The bench where we first met was now covered in moss. I'd sit there anyway, as if time would rewind. But time didn't care. Love had left, and all that remained was memory and me, trying to make peace with what I could not understand. It was a gray afternoon when I heard the gate creak. Rosie's husband stood there. His clothes were the same, neatly pressed, like always. But something had changed in his eyes. They weren't angry, just tired. "Husband, I figured you'd be here." I said nothing. "Husband, she's gone. Vanished. Left no note, no clothes, no goodbye." My stomach nodded. She's not with me. He nodded slowly. "Husband, she's done this before." I stared at him. My chest tightened. What do you mean? "Husband, she finds someone, makes them feel like the only person in the world, and when they believe it, she disappears." I shook my head. No, Rosie was different with me. It was real. You're lying. He looked away. "Husband, I thought so too." The first time, there was no venom in his voice, just sorrow, the kind that's deeper than rage. He turned and left, leaving the gate open behind him. That night, I tore through every drawer in the house. I don't know what I was looking for: proof, closure, anything that said she hadn't just evaporated. In my grandfather's old writing cabinet, behind some books of Urdu poetry, I found it, a white envelope, my name, her handwriting. Inside, just a single note: "I don't deserve the way you looked at me. I never did. I never could." But for a moment, I felt alive again. "I'm sorry for all I gave and all I took. You made me believe in a better version of myself, one I couldn't become. Forgive me." Rosie sat there for hours, staring at those lines. She hadn't lied to me because she hated me. She lied because she couldn't help it, because she was afraid, because she was already broken when I found her. That night, my grandfather sat beside me by the fire. He poured us each a drink and didn't ask what was wrong. He knew. Grandfather, I saw her years ago, before you ever came back. I turned to him. Grandfather, she used to come here alone. Sat in the garden, touched the flowers like they could save her. I swallowed. Emmy, why didn't you warn me? Grandfather, would you have listened? He was right. I wouldn't have. Grandfather, she was already running from something when she met you. You were a pause, not a home. That broke me more than anything she'd done. Emmy, did I mean anything to her? Grandfather, yes. But sometimes love isn't enough to hold a person together. Weeks passed. Rosie didn't return. The jacaranda tree shed its last flower. The bench rusted. The vines she loved curled in on themselves. I stopped waiting. I started tending to the garden, not to keep her memory alive, but to reclaim something of myself. But the soil felt different now, as if it had loved her too. And now, it was grieving, even. Nature seemed unsure of how to move on. I thought I'd scream, break, rage. Instead, I went quiet. I avoided the neighbors. I stopped checking my phone. I walked the garden like it was a place of mourning, and every leaf whispered her name, but it was guilt I couldn't let go of. Not just hers, mine too. I let her lie to me. I saw the cracks and chose to paint over them. I wanted the dream more than I wanted the truth, and in doing so, I became a mirror of her illusion. I began to write, not to make sense of her, but to make sense of me. I wrote about the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she kissed me without making a sound, the way her presence could make the world feel paused. She was the fire and the wound, the garden and the decay. She didn't break my heart. She taught it how to ache. Each page bled a little of her out of me, but she never left entirely. One night, I dreamt of her. We stood in the garden. The jacaranda was in bloom again. She wore the pink dress from the first day we met. She smiled at me, gentle, apologetic, and reached out her hand. Rosy dream voice. I came back, but in the dream, I didn't take her hand. I turned around and walked away. I woke up crying, but also free. On my final day in Anne, I stood beneath the jacaranda. For the last time, I held her letter in my hand, folded, weathered. A piece of her I never asked for. I dug a small hole beneath the tree's roots and placed it there. Her apology, her memory, our ending. I didn't mark it. No name, no stone, just silence. Emmy whispering, goodbye, Rosie. No anger, no blame, just the end of something that was once beautiful, then broken, then gone. I walked away from the garden without turning back. Years passed. My grandfather died peacefully, leaving the house to me. I returned to Anne, not as a boy chasing a ghost, but as a man who had learned to carry loss like a companion. The house hadn't changed. The air still smelled like jasmine and dusk. The gate creaked the same. I stepped into the garden. It had overgrown. Wildly flowers blooming across cracked stone, vines dancing with wind. Nature had rewritten everything, but the jacaranda had bloomed again. Its petals fell softly, not like tears this time, but like blessings. I sat on the old bench, and for the first time, I didn't search for her among the trees. I simply closed my eyes and let her go.